Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on today's Condor Zoom chat at Ventana Wildlife Society. As you enter, please mute. We have quite a few people with us today and we just don't want to distract our speakers today. Speaking of, we have Alacia Welch from Pinnacles National Park today who will join us throughout the entire Zoom chat. And we're really thrilled about that because we've closely been working with her and Pinnacles National Park for, well, many years. And I'd like to dive straight into welcoming Alacia, give a quick introduction. This week, in fact, Alacia became the Condor Program Manager at Pinnacles National Park. She's always had an interest in the natural world and received a degree in biology at Grinnell College. And from there, she landed an internship at Pinnacles, pulling weeds and planting native plants. It was there she discovered condors and joined the field tracking crew in 2007. She's moved up the crew leader position, and as of this month, took over the helm as program manager. We're honored to have Alacia join us today. And quick note, since the time that we started working with her, the condor flock in the wild in Central California was somewhere around 50 birds and nearly twice that today. So a nice little side note. Thanks so much for being here, Alacia.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, I think this will be a great chat today.
Wonderful. Well, so many of you are probably wondering, how did Pinnacles release site get started in the first place? And I want to just take a minute to provide some quick background. We started working together back in 2001, teamed up with Fish and Wildlife Service, the National Park Service, and Ventana Wildlife Society, and we wrote up the environmental documents and had 6 public meetings and went around and asked people what they thought and jotted all these records down and submitted it for the Federal Register and so forth, and eventually was approved in 2003. There was a nearby power line that we had to mark to make it safe for condors before the release could take place, and that was a really stressful time, but we got it done with the help from key landowners, and voila, many years later, from 2003 to now, Pinnacles has been just an instrumental part of the program here in Central California and a key partner of ours. I'd love to just ask you, Alacia, just a little bit more about you. I'd love to ask this question of people, in particular, what inspired your passion for the natural world? Maybe there's some childhood memory or story that you could share. Is there something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I have always had a great love of nature and grew up with parents who did too. My mom lived on a sailboat for a while, and she actually does that again now. And I remember going on backpacking trips with my dad, starting when I was, I think, about 8 years old. And I had a tiny little external frame pack that I could carry my clothes in and maybe my sleeping bag and a few snacks. And, it's just such an amazing thing to get out and go even a few miles off on a trail and spend the night out there with my family. So, ever since being a kid, just really fascinated by animals and plants and everything, and really have continued to have that love throughout my life. I still go backpacking every summer. I still love getting outside and getting my hands on whatever little things that I can. So it's really a lifelong passion.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing more about you and where that passion came from. I think another question that a lot of our viewers here today might be curious to hear about is, what is it like working at Pinnacles National Park? It's such a beautiful hidden park that, maybe a lot of people around the country may not have visited, but it sure is a gem around here. And Why don't you tell us more about what it's like working there?
Yeah, it's a great place. I mean, having started here way back in 2004, I certainly had never heard of it when I landed an internship here. I had grown up in Washington and Oregon and had grandparents in Northern California, but had Pinnacles National Monument at the time was certainly not on my radar. But I ended up here with doing an internship and really just fell in love with the place and the people, all the folks that live in this area, as well as my coworkers, and have made it my home. It's just it's a special little spot. It is a smaller park, but it is kind of, like you said, a little hidden gem over here. There's a few more people that are starting to find it these days. When we changed from a national monument to a national park a few years back, it does seem like more people now know that it's a national park, and so we do see a few more visitors coming through. But it's still a pretty special spot. So I feel really fortunate and lucky to be able to live and work here for these years.
Yeah, you bet. How about what's the best time of year to go visit, or in particular, when and where can people go to see the condors in the park?
Yeah, so Pinnacles, I mean, it's open year round. I don't totally recommend coming in the middle of the summer unless you are a very early riser, because it gets up to well over 100 degrees every day throughout the summer. But all the rest of the seasons, fall, winter, and spring are beautiful here. If you want to see condors, though, I highly recommend coming in the winter, actually. Between November to February, it's real common to be able to hike up into the high peaks and have them soaring quite low overhead, perching on rocks nearby, and just really great views. Plus, it's usually quite mild weather. It's really a nice time to be here. That said, the spring is also a very popular time to come and visit because it's just beautiful. The temperatures are lovely. The wildflowers are out. Often there's water in the creeks, and it's just a magical place. So there's a good reason why lots of people come in the spring. If you can, try to make it here on a weekday. There's a lot less visitation on weekdays. So aim your trip if you can for that.
And as far as a popular hiking trail, high peaks, or what would you recommend?
If you want to see condors, especially in the winter, I definitely recommend the High Peaks trails. You can access that from either entrance of the park. If you're camping overnight, there's always a chance you could see them soaring along the ridge behind the campground. That's a good place to check too. And that's on the east side of the park. And that's year round, really. Anytime we see condors using the trees along that ridge to roost in overnight, and that's most of the year. So that can be a good place if you want to see them. You can say that you saw one, but you're not really up close to them.
All right, great. Well, thank you for that. I'm thinking now is a good time to maybe start shifting gears toward what's going on in the field. And by the way, all of you who are joining us, thank you so much for muting and allowing us to get through this without distraction. We are going to have a lot of opportunity for answering questions. We'll leave a lot of room at the end. You can use the chat feature to enter a question at any time. So thinking about the field and now looking at just in this last year, I really would like to mention the Dolan fire again, just briefly. I think it's a good segue. Last fall, of course, the Dolan fire burned through Big Sur, and we had a tremendous amount of loss in condor life, roughly 10% of the wild flock, plus 2 chicks, and a loss of our facilities, which we're now in the process of rebuilding. But there was also a couple of chicks that were able to be rescued, and one of them is in that garbage bucket. I shouldn't say garbage, sorry, that container that's dangling below you as you're hanging from this rope in in this photograph. So I think this is a wonderful segue to ask you about that day. This is the chick that was evacuated. The Dolan fire was burning toward this nesting territory. And as you can see, Alacia here on the rope, literally rescuing this chick. So why don't you tell us more about that day? What was going on?
Yeah, so I mean, that whole time was such a crazy time last summer with that fire moving through, and we're all trying to assess what's going on with the condors, and just seeing it as it's advancing, and really, every day checking in on the fire map to see how it has moved the day before, and realizing like, oh, it is definitely approaching this other nest, and knowing that it had already burned over multiple condor nests over in Big Sur, and so I remember, I don't know, a few days before this nest entry, of talking with Joe, and our crews were all talking together. We were talking quite a bit at that time, just as we're trying to work out what's going on, and being like, seems like we might want to try to think about evacuating that chick before it's too late. We have the opportunity now. The fire is still several miles away, but it could move pretty fast. And so let's see if we can take this opportunity while it's still there. And it's a nest that we had actually gone into earlier in the season to check on the health of that chick and put a tag on it. And so it was one that we were familiar with. So we knew what we were getting into, that we could do it. And just decided, what, let's pull the trigger. Let's make sure that we can get this chick safely out of there and transported to a place where we know it can, thrive and and survive and hopefully be released another day. And so that particular day, there were 3 of us from here at Pinnacles, and we met up with 3 folks from Ventana, and all of us drove out to the base of that nest cliff. It was quite early because, we're talking the middle of the summer. There's a fire nearby. You want to get out there as early as you can. So we were out there just after dawn, basically, and got to the top of the cliff. My husband, Gavin, who's part of the Condor team here too, he and I went down into the nest cave. He got the little chick and put it into that bucket. I was coming down as well. I put it on me and dropped to the ground. And Ventana's team was waiting right there. They were ready with a kennel. We got the little guy into that, and off she went. She went down to LA. And I mean, it was such a great team effort to come together, and it just felt so good because we were starting to realize just how many condors had already been impacted by the Dolan fire, and just to be able to make a difference for at least this one was really, I don't know, it warmed the heart.
We needed it, right?
Yeah. So I was definitely, happy to be of assistance and help out with this and be able to make it happen.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I don't know if everyone realizes this, but AVA is short for evacuate. So we're pretty creative in naming around here sometimes. But anyway, so this is a great opportunity to hand over to Joe. But I just want to thank you again, not only for being here today, but for your long-standing partnership with us. Together, we can do so much more, and it's just really great to have you here today. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Joe, and we'll hear the rest of the field update.
Hey, everybody. Wow. Yeah. Thanks for coming, Alacia. I've had the privilege and honor to work with Alacia almost 15 years, maybe a little more, right, Alacia? We've been working together. And I can't say enough about Alacia, what she's brought to the program. I just feel really honored to have been able to work with her all these years. I've learned a ton from Alacia. I mean, she's very humble about her climbing skills, and she's, to me, she's an expert. She's taught me a lot of what I've learned about climbing. And I think what's really cool, and the birds kind of have done it, and Alacia, you can jump into, but I think we co-manage this flock, and it is one flock. We talk about the Pinnacle birds and the Big Sur birds or Ventana birds, but it really is one flock that we co-manage in a team effort. And, and it really was exemplified that day for the rescue of Eva. And, you know, I think it just, that speaks volumes to where we've come from as collaborators. And again, it's just been congratulations, Alacia, for becoming the Condor Program Manager. Well earned, well deserved. You know, I can't say enough. So yeah, thank you for being here today. And we're going to lean on you to jump in today on our field update. We're going to let everybody know how the flock's doing, our flock, our being VWS.
Yep.
So there's definitely some areas we want you to jump in on that you guys were on the front lines of this past month. So again, thanks for being here. And I think we can get right into it. What do you think? So
Sounds good. Thank you, Joe.
So speaking of the wildfire, I think this is a site that we've been wanting to see, the wildflowers coming back out. You know, the fires were devastating, but we are seeing a total rebirth of all the vegetation. The area is really bouncing back, and I think this photo really captures it really well. Myself and the field crew, we're up there, have been up there last month, and I want to identify them. We got Darren Gross. They're going to be in helping me today with the update. Kara McFadden, and we have Evan McGreeth. I'm sorry, Kara Fadden. Sorry, I mixed up your guys' last names. Anyway, they're going to be helping me today. Stephanie cannot be here today, Stephanie Herrera. So we have Darren, Evan, and Kara helping, and we have Alacia. But these are some different photos. Evan, I think you said you took this photo, right? What a great shot. See there?
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah, no, just being up there on the ridge is a lot of great opportunities to take awesome photos. So this definitely was a cool one.
Yeah, do you remember which bird this was?
Offhand, I'm
like
sorry, no, I don't.
Yeah, subadult, but yeah, great shot. It's kind of nice because you don't see the tags. You know, I think we underestimate. I mean, it'd be nice the day that we see all the birds untagged. So it's nice to have that side of the bird without the tag on it sometimes. It is nice.
Yeah, I believe it was 892, but yeah, it's awesome to see. You know, we kind of fantasize about one day when we'll see birds without tags on.
Yeah.
That's kind of a glimpse of it.
Oh, here's another great shot. This is oh, and there's a condor in there. This is the wildflower explosion we're seeing, folks, up there. This is the purple lupin is just blanketing the hillsides up there. And Evan, you took this shot too, right?
Yeah, I did. It's hard to capture how pretty the wildflowers are up there, but I was trying to catch them and a condor in the same frame. So it's a challenge, but it's so amazing.
I can see the condor
those
there.
Flowers in real person. The picture doesn't know justice.
I know. No, it is true. They're so overwhelming up there, and the smell is just incredible. So it's been nice just to see that regrowth after the fire. It's boosted our morale for sure, because the fire was such a big one to swallow, you know, losing all those birds. So it's nice to see not only the condors bouncing back, but to see the landscape really coming back strong, rebounding from this. Yeah, the crew's been working hard. We've been up there, you know, it's fire season's right around the corner. It looks like we're gonna have a drought year. So we've been up doing fire clearance, believe it or not. Even though we did just burn, the minute those grasses come back, you're right in the fire realm. So we're in that mode. So the crew did a big job last week starting to do some fire clearance, and we've started to stay up at base camp again. We're in tents this time, and we hope to have a cabin soon, but still going through the permit process of getting our building permits and get some of the cleanup done. But we know it will come sooner than later. But for now, it's been kind of nice just to go up and camp and do it old school style, right? And check this out. But yeah, it's been kind of nice, and this is a cool shot. I think, Evan, you took this a night shot up there. I think one of the coolest parts of staying up at our Bit Condor Sanctuary is the stars at night. I think are just amazing. We have very little light pollution, and you can literally see the cosmos up there. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, this is a good photo that kind of captures that. So we talked a little bit about Eva, and obviously Nico was also evacuated, and we have the 2020 Untagged Chicks from last year. And Nico and Eva, no change there. They're still doing great at the zoo since they were evacuated back in the fall. And both are progressing really well. I get updates from Mike Clark at LA Zoo, and he's always sending us photos of how well those birds are getting along with the other pre-release birds. So we couldn't ask for, again, big shout out to LA Zoo and their team down there. And we really look forward to those two birds coming back with the next release group. And more exciting news, the Untagged Chicks from last year, Pinnacles managed to capture 2 of them. And they were able to get some blood samples and some genetics. And Alacia, right, you're still waiting to hear back on parentage, but you did get the genders, right?
That's right. Yeah, one of them anyway is a male, so that's good. So last year, 1027, that one we actually did do a nest entry, and we were able to microchip her and determine that it was a she. And so 1027, as far as we know, we have not captured yet, because both of the untagged birds that we've caught do not have any microchips in them, and at least the first one was male. So we aren't sure which ones are which, but we are, we hope to find out within the next month or two as far as the genetics determining who those parents are. And it'll be great when we get it all sorted, because right now they're just given temporary ID numbers and tags and everything until we find out for real.
Yeah, so we've got our bets out. I guess the biggest wild card would be if it was 1030, but more likely 1021 and 1034 based on location. So still exciting though. It's just great that we're having these wild-fledged birds survive and we're able to tag them. And again, it's such great data to know these birds are making it out in the wild. So we're excited to hear the parentage. There's always a little surprise in there too. It's we had one year we had the parentage come back and the female was right, but the male was actually a male not part of the pair. So we definitely know there's some not complete loyalty on the pairs.
Yeah.
So I think that's another interesting aspect of condor behavior. But yeah, so it'd be exciting to hear. So I think by next update, hopefully we'll know and be able to share with everyone who our untags are. So thanks for that.
So Joe, don't you call that extra pair copulations?
Yeah, if it's, that's the
Technically speaking,
terminology.
that's the terminology.
Yeah, that's the terminology. So that was interesting to document in condors, and so that was previously unknown. So that was really nice to add to the the volume that this book we're writing about condors. And as anyone, we got a lot of cam viewers probably attending tonight. And, the big news that happened at the end of March was, or the big observation that was very clear on our VWSexplore.org condor cam was we spotted a condor with a can lodged to its lower beak. And we identified the condor. It was 943, which is a bird that Alacia and crew released over at Pinnacles. And again, it was really difficult for us, both field crews, to see a bird in such a vulnerable state with this horrible situation where it's got this can lodged on its beak. So we immediately could tell by the way the can was positioned that this bird could not feed. And it was sad because it was trying to feed. And fortunately, as we watched it, it was able to drink water, which was really huge. It seems subtle, but we know condors can go much longer without food than they can without water. So, they can go, we think probably they can last about 7 to 10 days without water. Without food, we've had condors go weeks. So we were at the same time shocked by what we were seeing, but trying to, assess the situation. And in Big Sur, we were compromised because we didn't have our release pen. And this is how we would have recaptured a bird like 943. The release pen was burned in the fire, and we're anxiously awaiting to rebuild it, but we just didn't have that tool available. So fortunately, 943 left Big Sur, and our hope was that 943 would either fly to Pinnacles and or our San Simeon release site, where we do have a pen at Pinnacles and San Simeon. We have pens set up where we could capture 943. And actually, Alacia, you can jump in here. You guys were successful in capturing. It was, God, we were all elated that day that happened, and it was there was a lot of drama there, but you guys finally got him.
Yeah, so it was such great news. We had been getting signals from his transmitter for a few days, but hadn't really been seeing him show up. And then one day he appeared and didn't go anywhere near our traps, and we were just so bummed that, you know, he didn't try for it. But fortunately, on the morning of, April 17th, one of our crew members, Sarah, she went up to the pen, and he was actually already down in the trap. So she just walked over to the pen real fast and closed the door on him, and that was that. So it was great. She made a call to one of our crew leaders here, Rose, who promptly made her way up there. They got 943 in hand and whisked him off to the Avian and Exotic Clinic in Monterey, which was, you know, really great to have them as a close resource. They were able to take a look at him. Actually, it was kind of funny, like in transport, because we put all the condors into like large dog kennels to move them around. So we had put him into the kennel with the can still attached because we wanted a vet to take it off. But while he was in that kennel, he knocked it off himself, which we just could not believe. So when they opened it up, the kennel up, they just got him out, and here's a couple of pictures showing the cut that was underneath his beak. And seems like it was fairly superficial, nothing that we expect to be cause lasting damage. They gave him a little antibiotics and sent him on his way. And so, you know, we brought him back to our pen so that we could watch and see how he was doing and make sure that he had plenty of food and water and just, you know, for some observation. And so while he was in the pen, he was so happy. You could just tell, like, you know, to eat food, to preen his feathers, to get back to life being more normal. And then a couple days later, after his initial exam, we did get a blood test back, and it showed that he had a high lead level. And so unfortunately, you know, here he just got over this ordeal with the can, but his lead level was high enough that he definitely needed treatment. So we did take him up to the Oakland Zoo, where he is right now, and he's undergoing chelation treatment for that. So it seems like he should fully recover from treatment. Everything seems to be just fine with him. He's showing no poor health or anything like that, but it was just so sad that, you know, here he had gone through this whole thing, and, you know, then on top of that, he's also suffering from lead poisoning, which we all know is the biggest problem for condors. And, you know, to have it here again was just really too bad.
Yeah, it was a rough go for this guy, and being such a young bird. That really hit home to everybody, to all of us, you know, and it emphasize the importance of our non-lead outreach work, which Pinnacles also has a major effort going on. You know, we are the most active in giving away free non-lead ammunition. They have Dan Ryan. They're doing a lot of their non-lead outreach. And Alacia, maybe you can speak to a little bit of that real quick, just kind of your guys' non-lead efforts.
Yeah, so we along with you, of course, over the last number of years, really committed to trying to get the message out there that, you know, big challenge for condors and other wildlife is lead in food carcasses and things that are left out on the landscape. And any scavenging wildlife can be impacted by lead poisoning, but condors, of course, are a prime example of that. And so Dan, the work he does, he partners with a lot of other folks that are doing education and outreach in relation to using non-lead ammunition for any kind of hunting activities. He attends lots of different hunting expos and things like that, with tables showing all the different types of non-lead ammunition that are available. And then just that one-on-one interaction with folks in our local community, those that are out hunting on their ranches or in the region, BLM land, things like that. So it's been an ongoing effort. There's been really amazing strides. We definitely find that a lot more people are aware of the non-lead ammunition that's available and are definitely making the switch to using it. So it's been a good long road to where we are. We're not totally to the end yet. We are still seeing quite a few condors getting lead poisoning, so it's going to take another push, but hopefully we can get to the point where condors are able to fly around and scavenge on anything they find and have a safe food source from these carcasses that are left out there.
Yeah, exactly. And it also points to the trash issue, which isn't obviously just a condor problem. We know, I think one of the more famous images is of whales entangled in fishing nets and garbage you typically see floating around the ocean. But this is a good example of just even the devastation a simple, part of a beer can have on the life of this long-lived species. This young condor. If we weren't there to help it, unfortunately, 943, we would hope the can would eventually fall off, but if it didn't, it would definitely have led to the death of this bird. So, saving this bird, I think the takeaway is, people always ask me, how can you help a condor? And the simplest way is just, if you're out hiking, you see trash, pick it up, and it's not only going to help condors, it's going to help, there's indirectly probably help a lot of species. So, the combo of this bird having lead and trash was a real wake-up call, but a great example of how we can help these birds too, by switching to use non-lead and helping pick up, clean up our environment. Switching gears, and I'm going to get, I've been talking way too much. I want to get Darren in here and Kara and Evan to get in here on the status of the San Simeon 9. So you want to jump in, Darren?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the San Simeon birds are, they're still doing great. We still see them at San Simeon pretty frequently. Definitely, in terms of each individual bird, I think they're visiting more occasionally now than they did previously. So instead of seeing all 9 birds or most of the 9 birds on the slope at once, it seems more likely it's more likely that we're seeing maybe half of them or 2 or 3 birds at the slope at one time. But kind of here you're seeing 4 birds on the slope just chilling in the afternoon sun as they do. These young birds seem to be just do the goofiest things like this. I think this is I can't remember which bird was lying on the ground here, but it's warm. The ground must feel nice, so he's just decided to lax out and lay down for a bit, maybe take a nap if 962 doesn't start biting him. But yeah, they seem to do stuff like this all the time.
And I love how the turkey vultures are downslope from there waiting around.
Yeah, they're all like, well, while the condors aren't feeding, we'll go and get our bites in. But as soon as they start, that won't last long.
Yeah, this is a funny picture of these guys neck wrestling.
Oh yeah, nice little interaction there between.
Hope you froze up, Darren.
Oh, sorry, am I back now?
Yeah, maybe Evan or Kara can jump in.
Yeah, I can jump in. I definitely kind of like going off on that. It's really fun to kind of see who's at base camp or at Pinnacles. I think we're all kind of looking out for these birds and seeing like who ends up making it all the way to base camp, or Darren and I saw 966 at Pinnacles yesterday. So that was fun to kind of see the bird jump in.
Yeah, maybe you guys can speak to this. Evan, you just updated our map here. We saw some significant movement in April.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we're about 5 months from that first release now. So this map is up to date till Monday. So the last we heard for 966, the farthest he made it away from San Simeon was base camp, but now it's really exciting to hear that he was over in Pinnacles. So
Yeah, he's our first.
On the map. I kind of graphed out the area just to kind of visualize how much they're gaining per month in the progression of the area that they're covering. A lot of the birds seem to go towards base camp immediately, but now we're starting to see birds move their way towards Pinnacles. So it's going to be really exciting to see how they're meshing with the flock and, starting those new interactions with some older birds.
Yeah, and I think what was interesting is, because 960 Peachy was the first to make it to Big Sur, and this is an interesting photo. This is Peachy right next to 943, right around when we discovered the can on 943's lower beak, and you can see actually. I remember Peachy interacting with 943, almost trying to grab the can off his beak, which I thought was really, just a behaviorally interesting thing. He's almost trying to help 943. But it was also exciting to see because I remember that we also picked up signals for these other guys that came really close, but they never came down to the release site, remember?
Yeah. So 994 is just on the other side of the ridge. If the zoom or the Explore camera had high definition zoom on it, you could have probably seen him, but it's still about a half mile away. Never actually showed up on slopes, so I guess he probably was checking out all the other birds around, probably saw what was going on, and backed out last minute. So maybe this coming month would be the month.
Yeah, and Alacia, we got 968 and 995 over here. They're pushing the envelope. You can see them. They got over near 101. So be on the lookout.
Yeah. Yep. Looks like we'll be seeing them soon, probably.
Yeah, and it's cool because the same thing happens for when your release birds start to come over, and we're always guessing where they're going to pop up, whether it's San Simeon or Big Sur, and it is kind of fun to see where they decide to go first. And traditionally, the San Simeon birds have made it to Pinnacles before they make it to Big Sur some years. So it is interesting to hear that we had this big push up to Big Sur initially. This map's really, really cool to see the progression, as they grew out. Awesome. Yeah, anything more you guys want to add about San Simeon? Any other interesting observations? We talked a little bit about the trio, the status of that trio, but we'll get into that more later.
Hey, can I just ask a quick question? I'd love for Evan to explain the increase in monthly range.
Okay.
It's interesting numbers, but maybe if you could just explain what that means a little bit more.
Yeah. So that is just looking at the area that the birds have covered on an each month basis. So the first month is matching up with the teal area on the map, and then the gray area this past month is matching up with the fifth month of expansion, and that bar chart just really shows how it's evolving pretty steadily. But I think as time goes on, that's going to match more of what the range of Central California condors are doing. So we're just kind of watching that unfold into the greater population.
So those numbers then are for the whole group of 9 combined, correct?
Yes. The 9 release birds, not the total population.
Not a per individual. But yeah, that is really, really fascinating. 820 square miles these 9 birds have covered since November and December since their release. It's really, really interesting. Thank you for that.
Really speaks to, how much area condors need, Yeah, and again, this was great to see Peachy make the first, almost like the first bird to land on the moon in our realm to make it to Big Sur. It's kind of cool. We were pretty excited to see him take that first step. Is pretty awesome. So nesting, the most exciting news we have And again, we're gonna have Alacia jump in and help us with giving us an update on the Pinnacles nest. So we have, last update, we were at 8 pairs that had laid. We are now up to 10 pairs that have laid eggs. So this is really exciting. This is definitely better than we expected after coming off the heels off a major wildfire and losing, some breeding age birds. This is definitely a successful year. And we couldn't be more happy with the flock and how they've bounced back. And I think the best news is, and Alacia, you can tell us, it looks like 589 and 569 have hatched.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago now, little chickie number 1078 hatched out of an egg. Really great to see that pair has nested in the same cavity for a few years now, and we have a camera in that cavity, so we were able to watch it pop out of the egg, and we've been watching both of the parents very attentively, attend to it and preening it over and over again and feeding and everything. So really, really lovely to watch.
So I think people are wondering is, why can't we watch that cam?
I know, I'm sorry. Well, part of the reason is that we have really terrible bandwidth over here where we are, and have not quite gotten the know-how and knowledge to get that sorted. But at this point, we do share video clips on our Pinnacles Facebook page, and I think Joe's going to share one here pretty soon. We sometime in the future, I hope we can get to a point where we can at least have one camera streaming. That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, and so that chick received a stud book number 1078, which is always fun and exciting to get these new stud books. And we added 2 more on the Big Sur side of the range. We had Junipero, and he's paired with Pinnacles female 438. They're in a redwood deep in the Big Sur backcountry, a very remote nest. And based on GPS data, we're very confident their egg is hatched. So that chick now has a stud book. That's number 1077. These birds will eventually be added to Condor Spotter, but being that they're still in the nest, you won't see them necessarily up right away. Just a heads up there. And even more exciting, one of our really experienced males, Condor 204 Amigo, and female 646 Kodama, they have hatched as well. And their chick is number 1089. And again, the 204 and Amigo and Kodama were part of a trio, formerly with 204's son, and that now the trio is kind of broken up, and it is definitely just this pair. So we're excited to have them on board, but I wanted to share the photos, photo and a video that, this is a photo I sent out, I included in an update. This is from the Pinnacles cam, and Alacia shared this a couple updates ago. Right after they laid the egg, if you look at the top of the photo, you see the bird standing over the egg. And then Alacia just was able to get a clip. They were able to observe the hatching. And hopefully that everyone can watch this. This is, Alacia, maybe you can explain best, and I'll hit play here.
Yeah, so here we have, you can see the egg there kind of toward the upper left corner. Yep, perfect, where Joe's circling it. And that it's very much apart. And so the little chick is inside, and it's doing its last pushes here to finally get out of the egg. And it was pretty amazing that neither parent was in there for this particular moment, but the one parent was only gone for about 20 minutes. But it just so happened to be this time where here it is, just finally making its way out. And not too long after this, the 569 came back in, and she, actually was pretty funny. She thought she was about to incubate the egg, and then she realized that it was actually a chick, and kind of took her a second to recalibrate, and then she promptly just sat back down and started incubating little 1078 there. So it was pretty great.
So that's cool. That was on that was on April 12th, right around lunchtime. That's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah. This is pretty rare to see, even with the cams. you know, I think that's one of the more magical part of the cams is being able to see condors hatch. And like we saw with the Nico last year was pretty amazing. And yeah, thanks for sharing that, Alacia. I think that's probably one of the, for me as a biologist, one of the coolest things to see is seeing another condor come into the world. You know, it's kind of like, I think it's what we all work for, you know. So pretty awesome to see this new little guy or girl come into the world, and look forward to this chick fledging. So do you guys think you'll be able to, I forget if this nest you guys can climb into, will you be able to get in and check on this chick?
Yeah, yep. And that's the plan. We'll go in when it's a couple months old, and then again, usually right around 4 months old, to put a transmitter and tag on it. That's
really cool. And that'll really help. Yeah, it's really nice when you can get a tag on them and track survival after they leave the nest. You can't do it at every nest, but the ones we can, it's always a bonus, you know, to be able to see how these guys do. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that, Alacia. Really awesome. So other nests, these nests are all in the soon to hatch phase. Unfortunately, we did have one nest fail, and Alacia can speak to that. It's a Pinnacles male 431 and female 728. Unfortunately, it looks like they failed in the egg stage.
Yeah, that's right. It's just based, we have a GPS on 431, and it just seemed like his pattern of incubation changed, and that nest must have failed. We never did get out to actually see the nest cliff or anything, but just based on his behavior, that's what we suspect.
Yeah, and it's not surprising, you know, we typically, you know, every year we'll end up with 10 to 12 nests, and we always have a few fail in the egg stage. So yeah, hopefully not too many more. We do have quite a few more going. So we have 10 eggs laid. We still have 9 going, which is really great. And again, if we could get 9 chicks out in the wild this year, that would be incredible. That would be our record. So I think our record is 6 in 1 year. So that would be really cool. And we had 5 last year. Of course, 2 we had to evacuate. But yeah, we're looking good. Fingers crossed. So without further ado, I really want to first off just let Evan and Kara have been working hard on this pair in a pretty rough area. So I'll let them take it from here. But this is a nest they've been following and trying to find now for the last couple months, and they've got some exciting developments.
I'm gonna say, who wants to start? But yeah.
Go for it.
Evan and I have kind of been like switching off, on and off, trying to find this nest. We have like located the tree and also the cavity, which is super exciting. So we're just kind of observing that cavity now to try to see if there's any activity that kind of gives us a sign that the egg has hatched. And I know, Evan, you went to go check that out today. So what did you see?
Yeah. So I made my way in there. Again, I didn't have much time, so I wasn't able to stick around for too long. But I did have 652 was standing outside the nest for about an hour, staring down into the nest. Unfortunately, I can't see into the cavity quite yet to see an egg or possibly a chick. There's a little bit of a rim to the outside, and I can't get up any higher to be able to see into it. So I was just kind of watching her movements, 652s, and she definitely was watching something in the egg. So that was exciting to see. But I guess we're just gonna have to wait until we get some more definitive evidence to know if an egg is hatched and there's a chick in there yet. So really excited about that.
Yeah, because when you guys were last looking, I remember you had it narrowed down to the tree, and then you had it down to about 3 different cavities. And I have these older photos. Did it end up actually being this one?
No, it actually on the exact opposite side of that cavity is another one. So this tree has 3 different potential options and a ceiling, like a roof area that it could have possibly been. So getting back there and actually finding which cavity the birds have been coming in, going out of, was a challenge. And that's obviously in the hardest position to get to be able to get that shot.
Well, I mean, look at that. Look at how small that tree makes the condor look. I mean, to me, that speaks volumes to how it's hard for people to grasp how big these trees are. How high up is this, you think? We're at least over 100 feet? Because I haven't been out there.
Yeah, it's pretty high up there.
Yeah, so this is, oh, good,
Oh,
sorry.
I would say also, depending on what angle you're kind of looking at that cavity, there's redwood branches that are blocking the cavity. So you kind of have to circle the tree to get the perfect spot to see into that cavity.
And that's really easy, right? You just hop on
Yeah,
over.
absolutely.
And I bring that up because I have a feeling the terrain's a little rugged.
No, it's really fun out there though. I feel like we're crawling on all fours, like trying to claw our way up these surfaces and like ducking under branches, but also not trying to touch the poison oak that's underneath us. So it's an adventure for sure, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and so, you know, having Alacia here is really cool because we've been on some past nest entries in Big Sur. She's come over to help, especially her husband as well, Gavin. They've assisted on many of our redwood climbs. And Alacia, you really like poison oak, right?
Yeah. I really like white Tyvek suits.
I remember our second climb, the first climb, she didn't have a suit on. And then the second did, because it took her that long to heal from the last time.
That is exactly right.
Yeah,
when we would do a nest entry 1 month apart, I would just be getting over my case of poison oak before we were heading back out.
Yeah,
so yes,
that's one of the big downsides of going on these nest hikes in Big Sur.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, it just speaks dedication, you know, despite the oak, you came back out there and pushed through it with your Tyvek suit and all. But we ask a lot of you guys, but you know, always super thankful for you guys coming over and helping us with our nest stuff. And again, a lot of these nests we would have never gotten into without you and Gavin and your expertise, you know, so greatly appreciated, because it's really, you know, for Big Sur, it's really opened up our understanding of, you know, in the early on phases of what were the egg issues. You know, we thought potentially marine contaminants might be playing a role, and it really helped us understand that whole issue. So yeah, again, team effort, and you know why, you know, these collaborations are so awesome. Cool. And yeah, this is big news right here. You know, our cam with Phoenix and Redwood Queen is streaming live, and we are definitely getting later in the hatch window. We are obviously we're on the edge of our seats just like everyone else, and just to know, you know, that not all eggs make it, and you know, we're optimistic that there's still a window here for this egg to hatch. But again, if it does fail, it's not the end of the world. It's you know, this is a new pairing. You know, it's a older female 190 Redwood Queen, very experienced, with a somewhat inexperienced male in Phoenix. So this was their first attempt, and a lot of times first attempts aren't always, you know, they miss the mark sometimes. And so if this egg is infertile and not actually going to hatch, they will give it a go again next year. We probably will run out of time this year for these guys to recycle and lay another egg. We're kind of late in the season. That would be unexpected, but they do have a small window if this egg does fail to lay again. But yeah, we're not out of the clear yet. I mean, we're not. There's still a window here.
So Joe, on that, we're right at the very end of that window, though, right? So if it doesn't hatch in the next
a couple
day
days
or two,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're still attending the egg. They've and it's really hard to see. You know, obviously last year we had that really nice interior cam that the fire damaged. We haven't it burned the cable to that cam. We had a lot more detail. It gave us a lot more knowledge. We're zooming in from quite a far distance. For those of you who watch the cam, when I pan that cam out, you can see how far away that camera actually is. And it's that distance away because it gets us a better look down into the nest. We're able to see the floor. If we get closer, we lose the angle. So it's this sweet spot And fortunately, Explorer provided a very incredible camera. You know, considering how far away we are, we're getting really tight in there. But there are some pixelizations happening. You know, it looks like the egg's moving. You know, I've seen a lot of comments. It looks like it's hatched, and we're hoping there's pieces of redwood bark that when she laid the egg that have kind of been adhered to the egg, which is somewhat normal. But I think we're not sure whether there's an actual pip site, and that's the first thing we'll see. And again, last year we had such a great view; it was very easy to see it from right above inside the nest. So we're taking with what what the camera's given us, and we still got some hope out there that they'll hatch. And again, if it doesn't, they'll give it a go again next year, or hopefully, if there's enough time this season, they might try again. But yeah, we do have. I would say in the next couple of days we'll know where we're at, because we're kind of coming out of we're right on the edge of that hatch window.
Hey, maybe this would be a good time to shift to questions, because I think we're running up against the hour here. Oh,
yeah, I'm almost
a few more slides. Sorry.
Yes, no, we're right there. We do have potential for other nests. That window's shrinking too, but we always get a surprise, which is great. And we might have an untagged show up that from a mystery pair. So that's always exciting and always a possibility. Yeah, just some pair egg chick facts. We always like to include these in the Zoom updates. How long do pairs incubate eggs? And this ties in with what we were just talking about. They'll incubate 57 to 60 days until the egg will hatch. How long will the chicks stay in the nest? It's right around 6 months. How long will they stay with the pair? That chick, if it survives, once it leaves the nest, in total from the time it hatches until it separates from mom and dad is around 18 months. So a really long time with mom and dad. And during that time, they'll skip a nest season to raise their chick. We get this question a lot: do pairs mate for life? Most of the time, but not always. We do have changes in the hierarchy, and we've had pairs shift and parent with other birds. So again, that's kind of something that changes. Are trios unusual? Not exactly. We're finding out that trios are becoming more common than we thought, and there might be a strategy there for that. Again, just something we're investigating, but it is interesting that they aren't exactly unusual. How many chicks fledged in Central California since birds began nesting in Central California in 2006? It's at 47. How many have fledged this past year in 2020? We had 5 fledge, and again, we had to evacuate a couple chicks, Eva and Aniko. And how many do we anticipate in 2021? Well, we know we have 3 that have hatched so far, but we have potential for 9. And that might be stretching it a little bit, but we're hoping for 9. And again, if we end up with 5 or 6, that's still a huge success. So where's the population now? We are at 89 condors total between Pinnacles and VWS. And we have the 3 pre-fledged chicks in the nest. We have 6 eggs still in the nest getting ready to hatch. And so far we have lost 5 birds so far in 2021. We've had 5 deaths. Outlook for 2021 is looking great. We're cruising along with the rebuild. A little slower than we were hoping, but again, we're keeping the needle moving forward. We're looking forward to releasing birds, and that will include Aniko and Eva, which would be really exciting. So we could have as many as 10 plus birds released in Central California next year. We're hoping for good wild production. Again, we got 9 nests going, potential for more, potentially some surprises there. And again, we spoke to it earlier. We're just really trying to get our momentum going on our non-lead outreach again. And Mike is working hard on the free non-lead ammunition program and trying to help us, trying to hit that lead mortality issue on the front end and get lead off the landscape and keep these birds alive. And just before we get into questions, our next chat is May 27th. We don't know, we're lining up still. We'll have more to follow on that, but keep checking out in at our website. That's where the sign up would be. The link for the sign up to the Zoom chat. And with that, I think we'll switch gears to questions. Mike, we got some, how are we looking on questions?
We always have plenty of questions. We could probably spend a whole hour on questions someday. But you alluded to Condor number 438, and Betsy in North Belmore, New York, mentions that on the website, it says, we strongly suspect they hatched their egg in mid to late March. She wants to know what change in activity pattern tells you that the chick may have hatched. What sort of magic are you pulling from the data to be able to say that?
Hey, Darren, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, for sure. I apologize if I freeze up. Hopefully not. But so for 438, she has a GPS unit, and that's really how we've been keeping track of her activity, and really how we found out that she was starting to incubate at her nest site. And so the switch we're looking for going from incubation to when a chick hatches is when a female's incubating, and for the males too, they'll incubate for days at a time, usually like 2 to 3 days at a time. But once the chick is hatched, they're making much more frequent visits to the nest, but for shorter periods of time. So we have an awesome volunteer who's developed really our whole database and system for keeping track of data. And so one of the features he has on there is a graph that shows sort of the proximity of a bird to its nest site. So when we see that bird 438 has been at her nest, there's a really high line of activity at the nest site on that graph. But when she's away, the line drops. So when she's visiting frequently, there's constant peaks going on this graph. And so it sort of switched to that pattern when the chick hatched, or when we suspect the chick hatched. And whereas before, the peaks were much longer, or for much longer periods of time. There was much less waviness, and much more long changes in activity.
There is a question about the releases that are imminent for the Yurok site in Redwood National Park. Maybe this is a question for Alacia. What will be Pinnacles National Park's involvement with that site? Is there anything that you can share in terms of the status of when the releases might occur? Is it this year, or are we talking next year?
Sure, yeah. So the Yurok tribe and Redwood National Park are going to be working together to release condors up in Northern California. It sounds like the release pen will be in the Redwood National Park, I guess, on their land. And as far as our involvement with that, we certainly provide lots of help and information to their biologists and the folks with both the Yurok and with the park about all the nitty-gritty details that you need to know before you start releasing condors into the wild. So I've had many a conversation with their biologists and managers. They are hoping to get their pen built and all of that this coming summer, and start maybe getting condors into that pen by the fall, with the release perhaps this year, but maybe it would be more like spring of next year. But I'm not sure. I think that's really just going to depend on how the build goes and all that. But they're really hoping that, by this time next year, they will have some condors out into the wild.
It's really exciting.
Very good. Thank you. A hot question right now. It's blowing up the chat, and so I'm going to have to ask, and I'll phrase it from Bill from Carmel Valley. He wants to know what happens to Redwood Queen's standing in the pecking order now that she's paired with a younger bird. And does her standing lift Phoenix? And also maybe the question could go towards a bird like Peachy, who visited the Big Sur site for the first time. What is that bird standing after that first visit? So maybe you can comment, Joe, a little bit on the hierarchy and how the pecking order has changed, particularly for Redwood Queen and Phoenix.
Yeah, I think just to hit Peachy real quick, that that bird's definitely very low. It was probably why the other birds decided not to come down to the release site and hang up on that ridge, as Evan was pointing out, and we were getting their signals. I'm sure it was very intimidating to see this group of older birds and displaying, and these pairs, and it's probably equivalent to your first day in high school or something. Like, do you want to go out on the you're walking down the hallway for the first time and you see all these older upperclassmen, and I think for Peachy that was it. And that says a lot for Peachy to be down there hanging with those birds and to make that leap to go down and greet and say hello. Compared to the rest of the San Simeon birds, that might be an indicator that Peachy's a little higher up in the hierarchy among the San Simeon birds. For Redwood Queen, being with Phoenix, I think it's hard to say right now because Phoenix is had an established territory with a female 547 from Pinnacles prior to this, and so he had his own. He was he wasn't the top dog, but he was definitely in that top tier for a bird his age, pretty dominant. And so I think Redwood Queen will continue to carry her queen status. I think she'll always carry that, the fact that she was with Kingpin for so long. I think her being with Phoenix, I think they form a pretty strong bond that I still think ranks pretty high amongst all the pairs in the flock. So, it's a very nuanced thing, it changes, but in general, in a general way to think about it, they're still in that upper tier, that upper hierarchy. They're in the elite status. The gold members.
Absolutely. We're running up against it time-wise, but perhaps I'll throw you one more and thank our participants for their questions. Sorry if we haven't been able to get to your question. There may be opportunities for us to follow up with you later on, but there are questions about Nico and plans for his release in terms of where that might be, when that might be, and how far away from Nico's nest will that release be?
Most likely, Nico will be released at San Simeon, and that is as the way the condor flies from Nico's nest is about 30 miles south down the Coast Range. So quite a distance away. But I think the importance here is that that Nico is with birds when she gets released, that she's with birds similar age and has a group to get released with. That's because, again, she won't have mom and dad out there to usher her through. And so I think I think she'll be close enough in terms of condors. Look at how fast the San Simeon 9 have expanded. In the first few months, they were almost up to where Nico was nesting. So I think that in the bigger picture, really for us, the most important thing is who she's released with and released at and how she's released. And I think the rest will fall into place. But, if we had our big SIR release pen going, we could definitely get her up there. But for now, really San Simeon is our best location. And even if she was released at Pinnacles, it would be about the same situation in terms of distance. But I really don't think the distance is an issue in the bigger picture.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Alacia, for joining us. So it's been a lot of fun to have you join our Zoom chat. Please join us, everyone, next month, May 27th, for our next chat and next update. And Joe, if you have any last words, I'll throw it.
I just want to thank, Alacia for being here. Thank the crew for being here. The field crew, they're super dedicated folks. And again, congrats to Alacia for the new position there at Pinnacles. Well earned, well deserved. And yeah, as always, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's great to see all the questions that people have and such enthusiasm. I love it.
Thanks again, Alacia. And keep in mind, everybody, we have these Zoom chats every last Thursday of the month, and you can sign up on our website. Just go to join us in the tab Zoom chats, or Condor Zoom chats it is. Thanks again for coming, and we'll see you next time. Now, next time we're going to talk even more about nesting. I think we'll have even more to share. So be sure to join us.
Thank you, everyone.